Member of the Florida Conference of Muslim Americans in association with the vivid leadership and ministry of Imam Din Muhammad radiallahu anhu. Imam Hatim is also an avid student of Imam Qasim Ahmad rahimahullah, a member of the Shura of Imams of the Islamic Society of Central Florida and the Florida State Council of Imams. He is also on the Mayor's Interfaith Council of Central Florida and is co-founder and executive director of Knowledge for Living, Inc., which is a 501c3 public charity, a community development organization. Throughout his career, Imam Hamidullah has held responsible positions of leadership in Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, and Florida. Imam Hatim was selected as a guest of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to participate in their first intensive Islamic educational program in Washington, D.C., and at the American Islamic University, completing and advancing in subjects such as Quranic Arabic, Tafsir al-Quran, Hadith methodology, Sirah and Fiqh, religious rulings. Imam Hatim has written several books and booklets on al-Islam, such as Salah Guide, Quranic Arabiya, Foundations, Tarbiyah, Marriage Relations, Tafsir Methodology, and so on. He and his wife, Sister Amina, have completed the Hajj, alhamdulillah. So on behalf of the Masjid AlSalam community, we welcome you.
Thank you.
Imam Hatim Hamidullah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم.
Correcting historical perception. To all Americans and to our Muslim brothers and sisters nationally and globally, we must have the correct report on the history of the legacy of all the Muslims in America and the rest of the world, insha'Allah. Controversy and challenge. The history and understanding of Muslims in the United States has been one of both controversy and challenge. Some lingering misconceptions, among others, the misunderstanding of the terms Khalifa, Jihad, Islamic terrorist. These are just a few obvious ones. Muslims in America today. A large number of Muslims today are physicians, engineers, lawyers, educators, and other professionals. There is also a growing number of Muslim celebrities and public servants such as congressmen and commissioners who are making huge contributions to the infrastructures of the public square. North American Muslims today are our friends, neighbors, classmates, and co-workers. We share the same values of family, education, and dedication to hard work as all other decent families as law-abiding citizens here in the United States and Canada. How did we all get here? Historical snapshot, significance of the Islamic legacy. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Every baby is born Muslim." There were African Muslims in North America as early as 14th century. Slave ships carried millions of Muslims and others 70 to 75%, some say 40% or less of all of the slaves were Muslims. Not all Africans who came to America were slaves. African Muslims traveled by ship from Africa and associated and married into Indian tribes in Mexico, California, Texas, Florida, etc., before and after slavery began. Historical snapshot continuation. Immigrant Muslims from Pakistan, India, North, and other parts of Africa Syria, Lebanon, Middle East, and more have migrated to North America over the especially the last 75 to 100 years. The migration was gradual and evolutionary with Spanish Muslims, the Moorish Science Group, and the Ahmadiyya development and movement and others. The forming of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's Nation of Islam, Imam W.D. Muhammad and community, son of Elijah Muhammad, Minister Louis Farrakhan, Malcolm X, and many others like Mana, Isna, Ikna, everything that counts. Today, here are many Muslim communities all over the USA and Canada. As of 2020, 2.18 billion, or more than 25% of the world population, are Muslims. Here in 2024, the population of Muslims worldwide already exceeds 2 billion. Again, Muslims have hundreds of masajid and thousands of businesses in the USA today, unique socio, political, and economic engagement. In the wake of the historical election of President-elect Barack Obama, we reflect upon the importance of the state and impact of African American leadership and people. What legacy stands out clear for us in regards to sound leadership as opposed to image leadership? Elijah Muhammad, Martin Luther King, Civil Rights Movement, Abdul Malik, Shabazz, Malcolm X, and the man that was called America's Imam, no doubt, Imam Warith Deen Muhammad, rahimahullah, who was the son of Elijah and Clara Muhammad.
Okay, so here I want to just pause on this statement of the man, Abdul Malik Shabazz, Malcolm X. And most of you who read his book or saw any movie about Malcolm, rahimahullah alayh, anyone who read his information concerning the letter that he sent back to his comrades in New York City about what he realized about Islam or Islam proper when he visited the holy precincts there in Mecca, when he made Hajj. And in a capsule statement, he said that America would do well to take a good hard look at Islam. And they will be able to learn some things from Muslims in which would straighten out a lot of problems that's happening in the United States of America, both religiously and politically. And I'm saying this myself today, America would do itself a favor if it would begin to look at more religious theology, more religious knowledge. One of the biggest problems that America has today is the same problem that they had when they took God out of the school system. When you take God out of the equation in a situation, then that situation is doomed to fail. And that's exactly what's happening in the United States of America. This is a good, basically and fundamentally safe place to live, but we have to make sure, we all as Muslims have to make sure that we are on our deen. And I think that this is what this is all about. I really appreciate being invited here to your masjid. You are some of the most boldest members of the Muslim community in the United States of America. And I have to say, I'm saying that from my heart. Because many people are so afraid that they're going to be investigated, they're going to be talked to, or they're going to be exported or something like that. The fear tactics that's being used on Muslims and many other people in this society is one of the tactics that Shaitan uses. Satan uses the fear factor. And we are taught as Muslims that we fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more than we fear anything or anybody else. And once we 100% take this in and adopt this position, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the ability, if we trust Allah, and this term in Arabiya, I'm so fascinated with the Arabic, I find something every day in the Quran. Every time I pick up the Quran, and you know as well as I do, that the Quran is always giving you, it is always giving you something that you didn't know about it, even though you may have read that ayat. You know this principle exists, especially during the month of Ramadan, when you're so intense and involved in it. But I just want to say that about Malcolm. Malcolm told his comrades that America would do itself a favor. And this is what we suggest to interfaith council meetings, things like this. They have things from their theology. We have ayahs from our theology, and we share and we go back and forth until we at least agree to disagree. But that doesn't mean that we don't put our language out there that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us. The kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as you know, I'm talking to the mirror, the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are those words that have been kept pure for over 1,400 years. And they have not been changed by human beings or anything else. But as you know, those other scriptures, many of them, even though they're authentic, they have been existing in the world at first authentically, authentic knowledge, authentic revelation, it has been tampered with. So let's face the fact. If you're dealing with a book that has been tampered with, and you're dealing with another book that has not been affected or tampered with, even though it's been interpreted different ways, and that is the Quran, then the authenticity of the Quran is gonna the authenticity of the Quran has a marathon winning spirit. The Quran, as you know, is not for us using it as a 100-yard dash for a 400-yard relay. The Quran is forever for us as believers. And this is what we want to revisit, inshallah. And that's what we discovered as Muslims, young Muslims, coming up in these United States of America. Personally, I became aware of the Quran when I was 14 years old. I can't remember how many moons that was back, but I was 14, I was a teenager, and someone started mentioning something, some light recitation, reading from the Quran. We, not just me, we had heard words like Allah, you know. We had heard words like Muhammad, you know. We had heard words like the Quran. We never heard these words before. Big question marks in our head about what is this and what is that? Who is that guy saying, you know, they used to say, mess up the greeting. Way back in the day, they used to just demolish the greeting. Salam alaka and salam alayka, and that, until we began to evolve and grow. I have to tell you this part in this session, that my first Quran came from the public library. They did not, Qurans were not available like they're available for you all today, for all of the new Muslims today. There's gobs of Qurans around. We had to hunt and fish. We had to go and look for the Quran in different schools and different libraries, and they would be kind of like covered up. You couldn't get one easily back in the day. So you can continue, inshallah, jazakallah khair, and finish that line. Who was the son of Elijah and Clara? Muhammad.
Malcolm Abdul Malik Shabbaz said, Malcolm said when he was in Mecca that he believed that America would do itself a favor by looking to Islam to find solutions to the racial and other social ills it was experiencing in that day and time, and I'm saying what Malcolm said then, in this day and time now. An overwhelming majority of American Muslims within the past 2 decades recognized the need for the community to become more civically engaged with the broader society. Remember your vote counts, be it Muslims or non-Muslims. Engaging in interfaith dialogue and community projects to political involvement, both in voting and running for elected office. The American Muslim Task Force on Civil Rights and Elections, AMT, recently reported a record turnout presidential elections, 89% voting. Awakening and necessity. This invigorated sense of the community claiming America for itself was drastically accelerated after the negative fallout and the proliferation of Islamophobia after the tragedy of 9/11. Some years ago, there was much conversation about the community questioning the benefit of interfaith collaboration, Central Florida Interfaith Council, or the permissibility of engaging in the political process in America. There are many interfaith groups in the inner cities around the US and Canada. Such conversations quickly shifted due to a mixture of necessity and awakening, calls for Muslims to become more involved in America besides collecting American dollars and having the freedom to build bigger schools and masajid. Imam W.D. Muhammad. This leads us to the vision of Imam W.D. Muhammad, and perhaps the most important stabilizing aspect for Islam and its contributing to the moral and intellectual consensuousness in the United States. Imam Muhammad is often cited as leading the greatest mass conversion of people, 500,000, with the permission of Allah, to mainstream Islam in American history. Yet his method and its effect of mainstreaming a significant portion of Muslims into society based upon the Islamic goal of elevating humanity, not simply for the purpose of assimilation into the dominant culture, but represents the true genius of his leadership.
Okay, so this 500,000 number, this is a conservative number. This is a conservative number because people, if they came with me and they say, and I make this presentation like this and give a number like 500,000, they'll be quick to raise up their hands and say, you're shooting a low ball. So I'm doing this on purpose because there are a lot of individuals out here in this society, in this world, who were really, really working for somebody. You know, we had people come into the masjid that were working for somebody, and they themselves were not really real Muslims. I've seen times when, because we were trained, we were taught many years before Imam Muhammad took over the nation of Islam and brought it on point and on line with the Quran and Sunnah. There were many types of other people that used to come into the temples and come into the mosques, come into the masajid. Those people would take shahada, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu, but they were not really sincere in their shahada. They were working for somebody. So we had a keen eye to identify these types of people. We were trained this way. And some of those individuals, not saying that these entities are not good for us, there's a plus there and there's a negative there. Because unless we are working in harmony with the different security forces that have been established in these United States of America, it's not a plus for us. So I hope and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we can get closer and closer and closer to those people so that they can see who we really are. Because in most cases, people don't know really who are these Muslims. And we are quick to tell people, and I know that you are too, we're quick to tell people, look, you don't have to look at us as your enemy. We are people, and we were telling them back in that time, back in the day, that my people were slaves in this country. I can show you some pictures, but I won't do it here because I see some sisters and some younger brothers here. There are some pictures of some of the atrocities that happened to many of the African Americans that came over here and spent this time in slavery. It happened to men and women. So we'll leave that for another time. Perhaps you can do your own research on it, and you already have seen movies and things like that, but those movies are not really giving the 100% picture. You know, when you're talking about being tarred and feathered, you're talking about an ugly situation. When you're talking about being hung from trees like fruit, you know, and I think, and you all can probably help me with this, I forgot. There was a singer back in the day, she sung a song called Strange Fruit. And the fruit that she had in mind hanging from the tree was a human being. These are fruit. So a little bit more information, because there's a term now called post-traumatic slave disorder. Have you heard this one? Yeah, well, I'm giving it to you now. Post-traumatic slave disorder is a state of mind that people who have been constantly witnessing their own parents, their own sisters, their own cousins raped day after day. It was a normal thing during slavery for the slave master to come in with the husband. They're sitting down at the table eating with their family, and the slave master would come in, just his appearance, or just him showing up, the male in the house, the sister's husband, would know exactly what he meant. It meant that you need to leave because I'm going to be with your wife. You see, so this happened over and over and over and over for 3.5 or more centuries. Now, I'm not talking about 10 years. I'm talking about 100 years 3 times, and then 75, 100 more years of the same activity. So I just want to give you a snapshot of that. I have some slides, but I don't want to put that out there. So, inshallah, let's continue, inshallah. Oh, I can say this one. Let me do this one. I witnessed myself. I was part of this 300 Muslims at one time going to the court system in Dallas, Texas. 300 of us had taken Shahada, and 300 of us changed our names in 45 minutes. Allahu Akbar. 300. This is under the leadership of Imam Warthi Muhammad, his association, and then Malcolm's influence in our community. These were like a 1-2 punch. You know, it's like a right hook, you know, and a double up with the roundhouse and everything. They were 1-2 punch in this society. Why? Because it was an intellectual thing, and a lot of people want to leave Farrakhan out of this. But I'm keeping Farrakhan's name in the mix. Why? Because he is not afraid to tell the truth, and even though he may not come all the way every time. This is our brother. You know, how can I spend time having a dialogue with Christians and Jews, and I can't have dialogue with my brother? You know, so I should be a little bit more practical with that situation when we are talking about Farrakhan in the mix. Yeah, he's in the mix. He's not going anywhere until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to take him out of here. Or any of us, we're not going anywhere until Allah wants to take us out of here, you know. So that said, there was a committee. Y'all want to hear this? Okay. There was a committee in Dallas, Texas called CRADE. The committee to remove all images that attempt to portray divine. Its references to the Bible in Exodus 20, verses 4 and 5, talking about let them have no images of God. So we pulled this verse out of the Bible and made it a movement in Dallas, Fort Worth, Chicago, New York, New Jersey, but mainly in Dallas, Texas, where we had a pretty good working relationship with the infrastructure, including the mayor and the commissioners. They understood where we were coming from. We would come to them in a very intelligent way. We were and still was a religious organization, and them being in positions of power, they respected our request for time. So we had a CRADE walk. Yes, question.
Around what time was that, Brother Imam?
This was 80, 81, 82, something like that. And, there's a lot of humorous things that took place then. We don't have time to go there. But yeah, so CRADE was an idea of Imam Warthi Muhammad Rahimahullah alayhi, among other things. Also, you know Imam Yahya Abdullah. Okay, so you remember the movement that we had there. It was another movement called African American Men Against Narcotics. These were Muslims, and we had forces in the community that used logic to talk to people that were running crack houses and dope houses. Under that movement, we closed 7 crack houses or dope houses in Dallas and Fort Worth area, okay? And some of them gave the Muslims their property because they weren't doing anything with the property. They gave the Muslims their property. And so all of these were little movements that were going on and still going on in many different parts of the inner cities of these United States. We are not reserved to one little area of town. We talked to all of the ministers, all of the people, even we talked to rabbis, we talked to people over synagogue, we talked to different people, giving them the logic of the Quran, the practicality of the Quran, giving them Kul Hu Allahu Ahad over and over and over again, asking them, did you understand this statement here? Under this leadership, we took down, we had people to remove maybe, and this is a conservative number too, the image of Jesus Christ in the church, the one with all of the thorns on his head. Well, we made an appeal to this verse in Exodus 20, verses 4 and 5. Why are you doing something that your own book tells you that you're not supposed to be doing, and that is having images up in your church and saying that is God? And we said that they're confusing. You know the language. You know Ahmadiyyah's history. You know all of these brothers and sisters right now that are doing this dawah. Many of them, as was said earlier, they are reverberating off of the work and the dawah that has been done in the past. So if we don't know our past, we're doomed to repeat it, you know. So one of the biggest problems right now in the Muslim community, I'm saying nationally and globally, is, okay, here's a quiz for the scholars. It's not a big thing. One word. What is the first sin that was ever committed? Kibr. That's right, arrogance. Every sin that has been committed by human beings leads back to kibr, leads back to arrogance. Okay? I have to check my own arrogance before I move forward in my home unit, the masjid unit, etc., etc. And these are some of the things that we were telling the brothers, especially because the brothers were the ones that had boots on the ground, so to speak, to go out and give this dawah, etc. So yeah, that was the time, 80, 90. 90s is when, you know, they mentioned that we were invited to Washington, D.C. for Saudi Arabia was doing a situation where they were bringing in people from all over the United States and different islands to give the basic and fundamental religion knowledge of Islam. But to be quite honest with you, were beyond their first string of teachers that they had in there. They found out where we really actually were, and they had to send to Saudi Arabia and get another group of teachers, because we were not just on first level Islam. We were digging in deeply, okay? So we're talking about Qawaid, we're talking about Arabic grammar, Arabic vocabulary, some conversational Arabic, these kinds of things, you know. And my honest advice to all of us, brothers and sisters, close the gaps. This is what the Sheikh said. This is what we say when we're standing up for prayer, right? We say, close the stove, stand up straight, you know, close the gaps, don't leave any gap. And they put emphasis, and it's very important to close the gaps, am I right? Is it important to close the gap? Yeah, okay, so now that also applies to our association with one another as human beings. I want to close the gap that lies between you and me as a human being, you know? So don't close the gap on the road, you know, and forget to close the gap in hub. Ma mana hub? Ma mana hub? Love. Don't close the gap with love for your brother, for real. Love for your sister, for real. Don't play that color game. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He created, and these words come together in this certain verse in the Quran. Your languages, and you've seen this, you know these verses. Your languages are your speech and your colors. Allah did that. So we have to say, okay, Allah did this. I accept that Allah has created all of these colors and made the world a beautiful, colorful place, even with the human beings. So we have to close the gaps that lie between us that has been caused by colonialism around the world and caused by people thinking that first phrase that was used in Jannah, that phrase that was used in Jannah by Iblis, Astaghfirullah al-Azim, Ana astakbara. I'm bigger than he is. Well, that's what's happening with the Muslim world right now. I got more money than you. I'm bigger than you are. My part of the world is greater than your part of the world. We have this and we have that. No. Did the Rasulullah ﷺ talk like this? No, he did not. He was very, very charitable, and not just with the dinar. He was very charitable with the ilm, wa hikmah, the knowledge and the wisdom. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So we can continue.
This is no accident, political, civic, and business leaders. Therefore, it is no accident that a large percentage of American Muslim civics and political leaders come from his leadership. America's first two Muslim congressmen, Representative Keith Ellison and Representative Andre Carson, are his followers. From Adam Shakur, America's first Muslim judge and Detroit's first Muslim deputy mayor, to Yafet Al-Amin, Missouri's first female Muslim legislator, Muslim mayor of New Jersey, Rashida Tlaib, Representative Ilhan Omar, congresswoman, congressmen in other portions of government and business, as well as many, many others. Imam Muhammad's language and advice enforced the idea within a multitude of his students and others that there was no conflict between being an obedient Muslim and being a productive citizen of these United States of America.
Okay, we want to stop right there. Thank you. He's doing an excellent job. Thank you, man. Appreciate you, bro. So this whole idea about being an obedient Muslim and being a productive citizen, there's no friction there. You know, there's no friction between a person being a good, productive, wholesome, healthy citizen of these United States of America and being a Muslim practicing the religion. So these organizations, these committees or organizations still exist right now. Impact Muslim American Political Action Committee, along with many others that's springing up all over the United States of America under different leaders, alhamdulillah. We're inundating the environment with political action committees, and this is very much needed because, again, there's nothing wrong with being a good American citizen and being a good Muslim. When the way that we part away from the political activity and the political scene is that when something goes against our religion, you know, the Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, obey the laws of the land in which you are living in, unless those laws conflict with your deen. When those laws conflict with your deen, you don't follow that law. So a person would say, the whole earth is the Masjid of Allah. You know, this is the dry rationale people get themselves in trouble. The whole earth is a masjid. So I'm driving my car down over on what's that, 610, and I come to a stoplight. The whole earth is a masjid, so I'm gonna run the light. Don't do that. You can't break the law like that. Allah keeps us in the frame of mind where we're practical, we're rational, we're moral, we're knowledgeable, we have the hikmah, the wisdom on how to operate our lives following Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And I'm gonna say this here, and I'm gonna stop soon. Muslims, do not be sad. Why do I say this? Because if we know our deen, if we know our religion, then we know those 5 worlds that we have to travel through. From the time being drawn out of our father Abuya Adam at the very beginning, and all of us saying, La ilaha illallah. That's in us. It's there. That's the reason why people who find themselves in silos, in jail, or isolated, or somebody that don't want to be your friend, this, that, and the other, you think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah is your friend. Hold up your hand if you understand what I'm saying. Hold your hand up, please. Do you believe Allah is your friend? I know Allah is my friend. Do you think that I'm going to be sad if no one wants to associate with me and I know Allah is God? I know Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the messenger of God? Khalas, it's over. Allah give you new friends, new associates that are on the same page with you. So I wanted to make mention of that because a lot of times Shaitan is so shrewd, he'll make you sad when you know who Allah is. And you know who the prophet, the last prophet, Khatam Nabiyin. No more prophets to come after our prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you mean to tell me at the end of the day I'm going to be sad about that at the beginning of the day, in the middle of the day too? No. La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And my advice is to read the book by Sheikh Haddad, H-A-D-D-A-D. His whole family is alims. And he's talking about the 5 lives of man. You can get it on the internet. Very, very beautiful account of the journey of the human soul and where it ends up on the other side. It tells the whole story. Okay, that's a little khutbah there.
We shudder to think. In speaking at a CAIRMN fundraiser, along with the director of the NAACP Minneapolis and the director of NAACP St. Paul, who also was a student of Imam Muhammad, said, "We shudder to think about where the American Muslims' political situation would be in post-9/11 America if it were not for the likes of Imam W.D. Muhammad, who had cultivated relationships and thoroughly woven themselves into the politically fabric of the USA."
Okay, so what do we mean like that? Before 9/11, okay, many of the inner city Muslim, mostly African American, had made contact with the infrastructure of cities, major cities in the United States of America, commissioners, congressmen, senators, and individuals who had responsibility on a political level and political leverage, okay? When 9/11 happened, there was a type of rage in the United States of America among unlearned American citizens, and they had a bad attitude. But those who had been working with our community in regards to our position on how we should be living our lives as good American citizens. So a good American citizen is a good Muslim. And this is what we went around. We had been teaching this for years there in these United States of America. So again, Imam W.D. Muhammad, who had cultivated relationships and thoroughly woven those relationships into the social, politically and set fabric of these United States. That's the reason why you didn't have, at that time, a race war. Because the work had been done before many of the immigrants came and really got into the religious and the political, socio-political aspects of the United States of America. This was a saving grace. Many of you knew nothing about the work that we had done inside of the system because we were working with the system inside of the system. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So, quickly, inshallah.
The Imam's leadership had in fact been a shield for all American Muslims, even those who had once been highly critical of Imam W.D. Muhammad. Therefore, it is a mistake or perhaps an oversight when those among us state that the American Muslim community did not understand the importance of civil engagement until after 9/11. Under Imam Muhammad's leadership, there always had been a sizable amount of the Muslim community that was involved, which should be recognized in our current discourse and for the sake of being historically honest and correct. After the passing of Imam W.D. Muhammad, CARE, Chicago Executive Director Ahmed Rehab on CNN referred to Imam Muhammad as America's Imam. We must continue to have ourselves practical conversations relating to the empowerment of Muslims in America. I urge us all to reflect upon and study the methodology of Imam Muhammad's leadership that not only took, with the permission of Allah, hundreds of thousands away from the false teaching that Fard Muhammad was divine to Islamic monotheism, but also his strategy, which played a significant role in our current socio-political awareness as Muslims in America working with other right-minded people.
Key word, key phrase, working with other right-minded people. There's always good people out here. Don't paint the society as you know. I'm talking to the mirror with such a broad brush that everybody is bad and you're the only one that's good. Don't do that, because that's a limited amount of insight, a limited hikmah, which Rasulullah never used that particular tactic. He always looked for the good in people. You know, he always looked for the love in people. He always looked for the care in people, whether they were Muslim or non-Muslim. And this is our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as you know, he's enough. He's a perfect example for us.
We urge you all to reflect upon and study the methodology of Imam Muhammad's leadership that not only took, with the permission of Allah, hundreds of thousands away from the false teaching of Christianity as it exists today, and away from believing that Fard Muhammad was a god, etc. Also, understand his strategy, which played a significant role in our current socio-political awareness as Muslims in America today. You will come to realization that the Imam Warithuddin Muhammad was in step with the Quran and the Sunnah of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in real time with their proper application of them. People must be informed about the proper perception of al-Islam according to the Quran and the Uswa, balanced example of Muhammad, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are an estimated 5 to 7 million Muslims in the United States. In America, the Muslim population includes immigrants and those born here, with a large percentage of whom are African Americans. 2.5 billion Muslims globally. Americans rejecting Syrian refugees and others is rejecting their own history. People have short memories, forget that the people of Syria and Lebanon helped to settle the Midwest of America in the 19th century, while Mexican people lived in the whole of the Southwest of America for 10,000 years. Will the real Americans please stand up? In the next slide is the Mother Mosque in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, United States, the longest standing mosque in North America. Built in 1934, it is the second oldest after the 1929 mosque built in Tiny Ross, North Dakota. The mosque was built by a local community of immigrants and their descendants from what is now Lebanon and Syria. History can be really shocking to people who don't know the real blueprint of American history. Here is the Mother Mosque in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, United States, the longest standing masjid in North America, built in 1934.
Anyone of you ever seen or heard of this masjid? 1934, built from the ground up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and so there's another community, Indianapolis and a couple of other places, and someone just stepped to me. Is he gone? And told me that there was a standing masjid that has been here. Was that you? Oh, I thought you raised your hand. But there's a standing masjid built from the ground in the United States of America that was built in the 1800s, okay? And there's other things I'm living in Florida right now, and some of the names of some of the areas in Florida have Islamic names, okay? Those were those Muslims who came from North Africa and different parts of Spain. When the Muslims left Spain, they came around and the Gulf and went into Mexico. When you say Spain and people speak in Spanish, that's Mexican people. People who speak Spanish come from Spain. That's a no-brainer, right? So this environment in these United States is inundated with Islam, but Islam in pieces, in patches. What we're doing and what you all have done in this city and around the country, you are putting those patches together. And you are having what is called the term mamana safa. Those ranged in ranks. You're closing the gaps, okay? And I hope and pray to Allah that you continue to do what you're doing, but if you think deeply within your own self, you will say, I think I can do a little bit better in this area, you know? I was always thinking about shoring up my knowledge of the salat from the adhan to the taslim. I want to know everything that I'm saying in both Arabic and English. I want to be able to give this knowledge clearly to someone who may have a question, you know. So inshallah, we're going to finish here just a second. This is Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick.
Americans rejecting Syrian refugees and others is rejecting their own history.
Okay, we'll go to the next one.
Muslim scholars and imams in North America. Sheikh Imam W.D. Muhammad, 1933 to 2008, Illinois, USA. Imam Qasim, Ahmed, Texas. Imam Ibrahim Kamal al-Din, Imam Ibrahim Pasha, Imam Yahya Abdullah, Florida. Imam Dr. Nasr Ahmed, Florida. Imam Pleman al-Amin, Georgia. Imam Wazir al-Ali.
Y'all know him, right? Imam Wazir Ali? Yeah, you know him. Keep going.
Dr. Sherman Jackson, California, USA. Imam Siraj Wahaj, 1950, New York, USA. Imam Zaid Shakir.
Are y'all familiar with Imam Zaid Shakir? Of
Yes.
course you are, right?
Yeah.
So these are the front runners. These are the Sabiqun wa Sabiqun in the United States of America that help to set the pace for anyone else who would come to the United States of America. And all of the really rough areas had already been smoothed out for anyone else who came from anywhere else in the world. Okay, continue, inshallah. Sorry.
Sheikh Aisha Prime.
Does anyone of y'all know Sister Aisha Prime? Okay. What do you know about her? Tell me what you know about her, please, quickly. Okay, alhamdulillah. She's a frequent speaker at RIS, Reviving the Islamic Spirit in Canada every year. You should pick up, if you can, take your family and visit the Reviving the Islamic Spirit program in Toronto, Canada every year. It happens during the big break every year, and it's a good getaway, so to speak. Plus, it has a knowledge retreat after the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And there's something for every member of the family. Something for the grown-ups, there's something for the middle-aged, something for those trying to get married, some for those children, and the youngsters too. So it's a good environment. I'm pushing this because I have not seen it on this scale. Okay? Give me a number. Guess the number that attended this convention in Toronto this year. Just give me a number. Nope. 10,000? Who said 10,000? Shooting at it. Another number. Oh, well, he's really fishing. You're good, you're good. Okay, another number. 26,000 Muslims were there. I mean, I'm just the aura, okay? Just the aura, okay? Does a lot for the spirit of man, of the male and the female, for the family. It regenerates that real deep spirit of community life. Like when you all come here during Ramadan, you see what Ramadan does to your spirit. It's a regeneration of your spirit. Eid. Remember that Eid, Sheikh? Eid, Sheikh. The Sheikh knows right here. With the kufi on, he knows. Give me the Eid. What is it? Allah said, "Thumma yu'idduhu." Translate that. Then He repeats it. So when you see Muslims coming together, all these prayers that we're making, all of these prayers are sort of an Eid, a reoccurring spirit that keeps our spirituality intact, and we love to be among each other and pray behind the sheikh and join and communicate with each other. This is the spirit that Shaitan wants to kill in the Muslims. You can have all the knowledge you want, but if you don't have, or we don't have the right spirit with that knowledge, we're still at a loss, you see. The love of Allah, one scholar said, and I'm closing, you know how we imams are. He said, hub love. Hub love is not regular love. Hub love is the love in the Quran that Allah is talking about in the Quran. Different kind of love. Not the love that, oh, babe, you love me? Yeah, I love you so much. Yes, you love. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about a love on a whole nother level that is associated with our devotion to Allah. That's a different love. And then that love itself reproduces itself in and among people who love Allah like you. and then you associate yourself with those types of people. It's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Our vision as caretakers is to be in established model communities in the broadest sense, not leaving anything out. Education, religious and academic, business, politics, government, and defined culture. We are to be a community navigating with the guidance of Allah, having the Holy Quran and the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ as he established it as our example throughout the generations to come, inshaAllah. Our mission as caretakers is to be committed to continue the legacy of those who came before us, to establish truth as a standard for our life as it is given in the Quran and the sound examples given of the life of our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. We will continue to cultivate our original fitrah, nature, to produce wholesome families and communities through dedication and work in accordance with the will of Allah, the Creator, and build good relationships with all right-minded people of faith in America and around the world, insha'Allah.
Okay, basically and fundamentally, you want to read that? Arabiya.
Should I read the English first?
Yeah, you can read the English first.
Ask ourselves, what can we do to promote the idea of more unity in self, family, and community with Tawheed, the oneness of our Creator, creation, and humanity. As it is said in the other theology, charity begins at home and spreads abroad. Assalamu alaikum. You want me to read the Arabic? Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat lin-nasi تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله ولو آمن أهل الكتاب لكان خيرا لهم منهم المؤمنون وأكثرهم الفاسقون.
Allahu Akbar. You didn't know you was coming to doubt us tonight, huh? Class tonight. Just read the translation here.
You are indeed the best community that has ever been brought forth for the good of mankind. You enjoin the doing of what is right and forbid the doing of what is wrong, and you believe in Allah. Now, if the followers of early revelation had attained to this kind of faith, it would have been for their own good. But only few among them are believers, while most of them are. What is that?
ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير. آمين. So if you have 1, 2 questions, I'll take. Is that okay? 1 question, 2 questions from you guys about what was presented, or something about the evolution of Islam in the United States of America. Yes. What? When the slave was way before, how were they done that way? Because they would get killed. They were slaves. They would get killed. They had to sneak and worship. They had to go in the forest, go in the woods and worship. Okay? They had to do this. And if they were ever seen worshiping as Muslims or speaking some language, some Arabic or something like that, then they would be killed or they would be hung. Now, this broken English that we hear, that we have in our African Americans, we got away from the African languages over here, okay, while we were here, and then we were slowly taken away from the Lughatu Arabiya that we knew. There are some, I had another presentation, but I'm not going to show that because it takes too much time, of some Muslims who got through the cracks here in the USA. They were Muslims when they came here. They stayed Muslims. Some of them had good slave masters. and they were able to recite Quran and do different things, but they were very few, very few. Okay. You heard of broken English? Broken English? Broken English is because the slaves did not learn good English, but they had to speak it. You couldn't speak any other language. So they say, speak English. And they forced them to start learning English, but it was broken English. That's the reason why you go to Louisiana, you see people speaking Geeches and on the east coast of United States. They say, what do you mean, man? What are you saying? This, that, and the other. You know, they're speaking broken English, and we had to learn correct English after a long period of time. And many of us still don't know European English. Even Americans don't speak European English. Okay, so thank you for your time. I hope and pray to Allah that Allah accepts the presentation in you as well, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakumullah khairan, Imam Hatim Hamidullah. On behalf of the community, we're really appreciative of the refreshed enlightenment that you've given us tonight.
Thank you.
There are some of the things that really come out to me. All your emphasis on community, the emphasis on civic engagement, and a lot of the highlights that you have made of the pioneers that have preceded us in these lands. And all the good, great work they've done by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, works that we collectively are benefiting from. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept